Let's update on gold. We've had a couple of interesting days. Last week, I was saying early last week that it was a little bit too early to say that a bottom is in. Of course, the other big thing about last week was it was a US holiday, so no US trading on Friday. And I think this has hurt some traders here in Asia. I'll explain why in this video. So on Friday, we had a market where the US was closed, so only really Asian traders and some Europeans in. Gold started to move higher, but as I said, US session is generally the weakest session for gold. And we didn't see that on Friday because it wasn't open. So what we got was basically gold going up on Friday because only the more bullish traders were active on Friday. Now that in itself would have triggered for some technical traders a kind of weekly closing candle that looked quite strong. What we saw yesterday morning, Monday morning, was that a lot of traders in Asia were rushing in on the open using this weekly candle, I think, and basically putting market on open orders to buy gold yesterday morning. Gold shot up on the open in Asia yesterday, up nearly 1%. I cautioned my community, okay, because I said we haven't seen America for 2 days. I would not want to be buying too much. Those that want to participate, if we think that a bottom may have formed, which is still a possibility, then we need to position size small. Why do we position size small? Because the chance of a retracement is still there. And if your position size is too large, you're going to get stopped out on that kind of a move. Now, very interestingly, after that initial surge in Asia yesterday, we saw gold start to come back quite significantly, fell about 1.5% between early Asian time and the US Open. And that would have stopped some traders out. And of course, again, this overnight, the US market come in. We saw our first glimpse of that for 2 or 3 days. And what we saw was some stability, but that was based on the fact that the dollar was falling in that session. Now, again, before I start building a large long position in gold again, I want to see some more strength from gold. And that means, as one example, is I want to see gold have the ability to rise when the dollar is rising. And right now, that's not what's happening. So yesterday during the day, as the dollar was rising, gold was falling. This morning, again, interestingly, gold is falling quite sharply in Asia, down nearly 1%. And that just confirms my view that our position sizing, if you do want to be long, needs to be small. We haven't necessarily definitely bottomed yet. I think the key thing right now is that gold is trading like a currency. It is essentially reflecting the US dollar. So if the US dollar does strengthen, then both gold and silver will have more downside and potentially would go through 4,000 again. So that's where we are right now. I think you either have small position or no position. It's too early to call a definitive bottom, one that I would be comfortable building a position on. And you still have to keep an eye on the US dollar for your trade signals in gold right now.